Not all champions are optimal for every single rank. Some champs are just way better in low elo than in high elo, and vice versa. This isn't to say you can't climb with any champion in the game, it's just that there are select champions who are going to make the job much easier on you depending on your rank. In today's video, we're going to be providing you guys with 5 of the best champions for every single rank. Now, because there really isn't a massive difference between some of the ranks, and therefore we would suggest the exact same champions for some of them, we'll be grouping all the ranks into 3 different elo brackets. The first rank will be low elo and applicable to anyone ranked from iron to gold. The second elo bracket will be the mid or medium elo bracket, consisting of platinum and diamond. Lastly, the third bracket is high elo, being for masters and above. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. Starting things off with our #1 top lane recommendation for low elo, we have Dr. Mundo. These champions that can deal a massive amount of damage but still remain exceptionally tanky are always amazing for the lower ranks. Grievous Wounds items are also purchased way less in low elo, which allows for the effectiveness of Mundo to be consistently higher. When you reach 3 items and you're practically one-shotting the enemy ADC while taking 0 damage in return, you'll feel like this unstoppable raid boss. The learning curve for Mundo is not that high either. You could go into ranked first-timing Mundo and be more impactful than the majority of top lane champs. Build you should run is a Heartsteel Rush into Sunfire Aegis 2nd and Spirit Visage or Thornmail 3rd. Grasp is the optimal keystone rune with Demolish, Second Wind, and Overgrowth, followed by Free Boots and Approach Velocity for secondaries. One jungler who's absolutely decimating the lower ranks right now, and for good reason, is Nocturne. Playing a jungler like Nocturne, who has a very simple game plan, goes a long way for being consistently impactful for the lower ranks. Full clearing, hitting level 6 as soon as possible, and punishing the low elo players that will disrespect Nocturne ultimate is very easy to do. A champ like Noc, who has that semi-global presence to catch enemies out of position, is way more powerful for low elo than for high elo. Build diversity is also extremely nice right now for Nocturne, as you can go Bruiser or Assassin depending on which fits best for each game. Against a full squishy enemy comp, you can go Duskblade with Axiom Arc and Edge of Night. Into more bruisers or tank champions, a core build of Stridebreaker, Black Cleaver, and Death's Dance will do the trick. Rune Page, regardless of build, will always be lethal tempo with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Eyeball Collection and Ultimate Hunter are the best secondaries. There were a couple of good candidates we could have went with for the low elo mid lane pick, but there is one who stands out slightly more than the rest, being Aurelion Sol. Annie is without a doubt a very close second, but if your main goal is just to rank up the fastest, Aurelion Sol has the edge up. Aurelion is the perfect example of a champion who thrives in the lower ranks but gets demolished in high elo. Early laning is not where Aurelion thrives, but in low elo, you don't get punished nearly as hard for this weakness. If Aurelion can reach a few items, he's a complete monster. It's just getting there that can be difficult sometimes. But since low elo games tend to last quite a bit longer, reaching your spikes is much more attainable. Core build for Aurelion Sol consists of Liandry's with Rylai's 2nd and Archangel's 3rd. Take First Strike for the Keystone Rune with Magical Footwear, Minion Dematerializer, and Cosmic Insight. Optimal secondary page is Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm. There are very few occasions where this ADC is not the most optimal for the lower ranks, as Misfortune is always going to be a must-have in your champion pool if your main goal is to climb. MF is a champion capable of being impactful at all stages of the game and does not require any advanced mechanical skill to make her work. Finding angles where you can bounce Q off minions onto the enemy ADC is probably the most difficult part of MF, and even then it doesn't take much time to learn. In teamfights, your main focus should be to stay patient in the backline and be ready to play off your teammates' engage. Unleashing your ultimate when the enemy is CC'd is how you want the majority of your teamfights to look like with Misfortune. Core build for Misfortune is a Kraken Slayer Rush with Bloodthirster 2nd and Infinity Edge 3rd. Pick up Press the Attack with Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Coup de Grace for primary runes. Best secondary page is Magical Footwear and Biscuits. Relying on your ADC to carry you is often not going to work out when playing support in the lower ranks, which is why Zyra is such a phenomenal option. Early on in lane, you have to be a little bit careful, especially when playing into hook champions, but once you reach level 6, the solo carry power is massive. This is why you don't see Zyra as much in the higher ranks. But for low elo, where support players are not going to punish Zyra's early game as much, her value is significantly higher. Zyra doesn't even need her ADC to follow up on pick plays, as she can take out the enemy ADC all by herself with her full combo. If you can focus on your vision control around objectives well before they spawn, it's going to lead to great things with Zyra. Sitting Sitting in Fog of War and waiting for enemies to walk into a choke point is where Zyra can really thrive, as her AoE damage can absolutely melt in those tight corridors. Core build is Liandry's Rush into Rylai's second and Demonic Embrace third. Roll with Comet as the keystone, followed by Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch. Taste of Blood and Relentless Hunter are the best secondaries. Moving on to our picks for the medium elo bracket, being Platinum and Diamond, the top laner we recommend is Pantheon. Pantheon works a little better for the higher ranks, where it's easier to play off early game advantages. Winning lane is very important with Pantheon, so you've got to have a good grasp of matchups and how to approach each lane. Panth has one of the best early games for any top laner, so you've got to be able to abuse it to see results with him. Mundo, on the other hand, who was our low elo top lane pick, can get away with losing lane, and as long as games drag out, he's still going to be very useful. The same can't be said for Panth, as he scales quite poorly. Build for Pantheon is an Eclipse Rush into Black Cleaver second and Spear of Shojin third. Grab Conqueror for the keystone with Presence of Mind, Tenacity, and Last Stand, followed by Conditioning and Overgrowth. Fresh off some really great buffs in 13.8, our jungle selection for the medium elo bracket is Kha'Zix. Although Kha'Zix does not require insane mechanical prowess to pull off, the way in which you look to approach fights is what makes him a bit more difficult and a good fit for Plat and Diamond. With Nocturne, it's all about finding that priority target out of position and using your point and click R. Not a ton of decision making goes into that. On the other hand, with Kha'Zix, you've got to be a lot more shifty, properly utilizing stealth and being in the right position to capitalize when the enemy becomes isolated. Knowing how to play with the lead is also very important with Kha'Zix, as he can completely steamroll games when ahead due to his stealth, mobility, and one-shot power. Standard build for Kha'Zix is a Duskblade Rush and Ghostblade second and Edge of Night third. Run First Strike for the Keystone Rune with Magical Footwear, Futures Market, and Cosmic Insight. Sudden Impact and Treasure Hunter are for secondaries. One mid lane champion who fits really well into that medium elo bracket right now is Ahri. Although Ahri is a bit more mechanically demanding than some mid lane champions, the way you look to approach fights is rather straightforward. With someone like Aurelion Sol, you can kind of just win by existing if games drag out super long. But with Ahri, you've got to apply a bit more macro knowledge to make her work optimally. Being in the right position, ready to find picks from Fog of War, and utilizing the Fog of War properly to easily hit charms is key to winning with Ahri. Diving straight in on someone and catching them out in the open can work from time to time, but if you can be throwing your skill shots from a position where the enemy doesn't even see them coming, it will drastically improve your Ahri win rate. Playing Aram and just winning through 5v5 fights is great for someone like Aurelion Sol, but Ahri thrives off catch plays, which requires more game knowledge. Core build for Ahri is an Everfrost Rush into Shadowflame second and Rabadon's third. Pick up Electrocute for the keystone with Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, and Ultimate Hunter. Mana Flow and Transcendence are the best for secondaries. This ADC is great for any elo bracket right now, but is definitely the most optimal for Plat and Diamond, being Jinx. Positioning and being able to kite effectively is a little more important on someone like Jinx than Miss Fortune, so she's a great fit for the medium elo bracket. If you can press your R key at a decent time, that's often all you need to do to be impactful with Miss Fortune, while being able to consistently weave autos is extremely important for Jinx. Once you've reached Plat on ADC, you should have at least decent mechanics to where you can start to pilot someone like Jinx on a level that makes her worthwhile. Core build to run for Jinx is a Kraken Slayer Rush with Infinity Edge and Rapid Fire Cannon. Lethal Tempo is the Keystone Rune with Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Coup de Grace. Run Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm for secondaries. Blitzcrank is the perfect example of a champion who fits insanely well into the medium elo bracket. In the lower ranks, it can be frustrating to play Blitz, where your ADC never seems to be in position to capitalize on your hook plays. At least being semi on the same page as your ADC is important to winning with Blitz, and you just never know what to expect in low elo. On the other end of the spectrum, in high elo, players are generally pretty good at playing around a Blitz, not giving him too many easy openings, so it's a bit harder to make him work. When we meet in the middle with the medium elo bracket, your ADC is at least a bit more competent, and the enemy bot lane doesn't fully respect you, so the carry potential of Blitz is so much higher. Build you want to run for Blitz is a Shurelya's Rush into Zeke second and Wardstone third. For runes, run Glacial Augment with Hex Flash, Biscuits, and Cosmic Insight. Secondaries are Bone Plating and Unflinching. Moving on to our 5 picks for high elo, the top lane selection is going to be Jace. Jace should really be a champion only unlockable once you reach Master Tier, because you need exceptionally strong micro and macro skill to play the champ to his potential. That being said, a Jace player who knows what he's doing can turn the champion into the most oppressive pick in the game. Winning early game is extremely important to seeing success on Jace, so that automatically eliminates him from being a good low elo top laner. Jace can often set up waves for early dive plays, however, relying on your jungler to execute on them is something you can really only expect in Masters and above. By all means, you can play Jace in any elo bracket, but his true form is going to shine most in Masters and above without question. Core build for Jace is an Eclipse Rush into Manamune second and Ghostblade third. Conqueror and Phase Rush are both viable keystone options. Conqueror works better against bruisers or tanks where you need extended fights to win out, while Phase Rush is great when you need those short trades against squishier champs. A jungler just buffed buffed in 13.8 and who's now an absolute beast of a pick for high elo is Nidalee. A base armor buff may not seem like a big deal, but for a champion like Nidalee who thrives throughout the early game, any buff that helps her early on is huge. As a champion who's 100% reliant on hitting a skill shot to be effective and also gets outscaled by the majority of junglers, it's no secret Nidalee is a crappy low elo champ, but a monster in the higher ranks. Lucky for Nid, and what actually makes her an even better pick for the current meta is the fact we've got Thresh and Rakan being played in 40% of high elo games. These champs who can CC the enemy for an extended duration makes the life of a Nidalee player so much easier. If you're masters or above and can pilot a good Nidalee, she should be in your champion pool for 13.8 due to those recent buffs. Standard build is Night Harvester with Shadow Flame 2nd and Zhonya's 3rd. Take Dark Harvest for the Keystone Rune with Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Treasure Hunter. Transcendence and Water Walking are optimal secondaries. A mid lane champion who everyone can appreciate when they have a mechanically sound one on their team is Cassiopeia. Cass can work for the other elo brackets as well, but she's definitely the most optimal in high elo, where her kit can be fully exploited. In high elo, we see a lot more of these dive-heavy champions, picks that need to get right on top of you and deal their damage, and Cassio completely obliterates them. You see a lot less of the Vegars and Aurelion Souls in high elo, and way more of the LeBlancs and Silases. Cassio is super lethal when you can set up vision around objectives and play for picks when the enemy team walks into tight corridors. This is something you can't execute on as much in the lower ranks, since it's unlikely your support will provide reliable vision. The build for Cassiopeia is a Rod of Ages Rush into Archangel 2nd and Rylai's or Stoneplate 3rd. Conqueror is the best Keystone Rune with Presence of Mind, Tenacity, and Last Stand. Run Mana Flow and Transcendence for secondaries. Throughout the years, there's always been one ADC who tends to excel more in the higher ranks, and that statement holds true right now, with Draven being our high elo pick. Being very early game reliant, Draven is so much better off when paired with a competent support who knows the limits of Draven. You're just not going to find that in the lower ranks, so even though you can still make Draven work, he's going to be way more impactful for the higher ranks. In low elo, where you can't depend as much on your support, playing an ADC who has scaling insurance is often way better to carry consistently. Not only do you rely more on your support to win with Draven, but he's not easy to pilot either. Catching axes is super unique to the champion, and a mechanic that will take a while to pick up when first learning the champ. If you're playing Draven in low elo with no mechanical skill and with a support who has no clue what they're doing, it's just such a coin toss. Build for Draven consists of an Essence Reaver Rush into Infinity Edge 2nd and Bloodthirster 3rd. Lethal Tempo is always the Keystone Rune with Triumph, Bloodline, and Last Stand. Eyeball Collection and Treasure Hunter are the secondaries. One support who's crazy good for any elo right now, but even better for the higher ranks is Melio. The only issue with Melio and the majority of other enchanters for low elo is that you're very reliant on your teammates to be decent, and if they're not, you're quite limited in what you can do. In high elo, where you have teammates that know what they're doing, buffing them up is way more rewarding. As long as you're throwing everything on your fed carry, you can rely way more on them to execute fights and get the job done in high elo, while in low elo, it's way less of a sure thing. Melio's kit is insanely strong right now, so when paired with players who can capitalize on that, he's an absolutely incredible pick. The build you want to run is a Shurelya's Rush into Ardent Censer 2nd and Redemption 3rd. Aerie is the optimal Keystone with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, followed by Bone Plating and Revitalize for secondaries. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent Challenger players into Elo Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So there you have it guys, the best champions for every single rank in patch 13.8. Thank you all so much for watching, good luck in solo queue, and we will see you in the next one.